cook. Now, instead of using vegetable oils or ghee, which is traditional for Indian food, hold on, let me make sure I'm getting the right burner here. Yes. We're going to use coconut oil. And coconut oil actually boosts your metabolism. It helps you to lose weight. It's a medium chain triglyceride, which means that your body uses it like a carbohydrate instead of a fat. So instead of storing it as fat, it just uses it up right away. And so it doesn't make you gain weight, and it actually helps you lose weight. And I've pre-cooked a lot of things, so it'll go a lot quicker. So just know that most of these ingredients, like the onions for instance, we're just going to put the onions in here to saute with the coconut oil. Just know that that takes 15 minutes for the onions to get nice and soft and a little bit brown, but I've pre-cooked them just to speed up the class a little bit. So we're going to take one onion, a large onion. We're just going to leave it in the pot with a little coconut oil, and we're going to caramelize it. And when you caramelize onions, it brings out that rich kind of sweet, yummy flavor from the sugars and the onions. So you just leave it on a medium heat until it starts to turn brown. Try not to stir it unless you need to, and that will help it caramelize faster. And that will just impart a richer, heartier flavor to your food. And then we're going to put in some garlic. Now garlic gets really bitter if you cook it on a temperature that's too high, so it's best to caramelize your onions, turn down the heat a little bit, and then put in your garlic later so it doesn't get bitter. Alright, so let's just pretend the onions have been caramelizing for about 15 minutes here. We're going to throw in some garlic. Now one of these days I'm going to go get trained how to make Indian food the real way. It's really important how you put your spices in, because by heating up the spices and mixing them with an oil, because a lot of the flavor is fat soluble, throwing the spices in there, it flavors the oil and it brings out the aroma of the spices, and it toasts the spices a little bit so they're more flavorful. So the order you put stuff together is kind of important. Alright, we're just going to crush garlic in there. Now if you'll remember, garlic and onions are some of the best foods you can eat. They're cancer fighting, they lower your blood pressure, they regulate your cholesterol, and they help to cleanse out your body. So anything that you can put lots of onions and garlic in is going to benefit you a lot. There's a doctor I follow, Dr. Furman, and he advocates a vegan diet for reversing cancer and diabetes and heart disease, and he recommends eating tons of garlic and onions every day whenever you can, and that's really helping people to reverse their diseases and prevent future disease. Alright, onions and garlic, can you smell that already? I love just standing over the pot and doing this. It smells so good. Now after the garlic has cooked just a little bit, you don't want to overcook it or it'll get bitter. Then we're going to throw in our ginger. Now remember what I told you about ginger. This is so awesome for you. And it's also very, very flavorful. Okay, I don't know if you guys can smell that. I wish there was a fan to like take the smell back to you. So we've got that. Now once the garlic and the ginger and the onions are kind of all put together, then we're going to throw in the spices. And we're just going to coat the lemon, the ginger and the onions and the garlic with the spices. We got turmeric, cumin, a little pinch of cayenne pepper, some garam masala, and I think that's, did I say curry powder? We're just going to throw those spices in there. Coat. Can you guys see what I'm doing? No, not on the TV. I wish the TV would point down here so you can see what I'm doing. We're just going to coat those up nice and good so that they just kind of have a brown, everything just turns into a paste, okay? See that, how it just turned into kind of a brown paste? Let it cook for a little bit more just to release all the flavor coming out of those spices and get it into the oil. And then what we're going to do next is going to put in a chopped tomato. Oh, by the way, this recipe is called vegetable coconut korma. It's one of my favorite vegetarian dishes because it's really hearty. The coconut milk just makes it kind of so it sits in your stomach and you're not starving, you know, five minutes after you eat it. It's very rich in flavor, plus it has a ton of fresh vegetables in it. Dump the tomatoes in there. Now we're going to put in the coconut milk. This will blend with the spices and become very flavorful. Now coconut milk is the same as coconut oil. It's got all those healthy fats in there that boost your metabolism and help with your blood sugar regulation. And plus it just tastes really yummy. Did you guys see on Wednesday when I was on Good Things Utah and Daily Dish? I made whipped cream out of coconut milk. It was so awesome. We've been eating it all week. And if you want to know the secrets of having dairy-free whipped cream that tastes so good, you're just going to be licking the bowl then. You can follow the link and watch that, but it's super easy. All right, so once you put the coconut milk in there, you can turn the heat up just a bit. You want to bring it to a simmer. And you're also going to add the tomato sauce in there. Now, if you don't like using canned tomato products, you can also just blend up some fresh tomato and use that instead. It's generally best to use fresh tomatoes instead of canned just because they're acidic. They kind of dissolve away the inside of the can and then you get the toxins from the can. For the sake of the class, I'm using tomato sauce, but you can also use fresh tomatoes. All right. For the purposes of this class, if I was at home, I'd wait till that came to a simmer and then I'd start throwing more stuff in, but because of the class, we're just gonna speed it up a little bit and you can take your time at home. We've got garbanzo beans here, also called chickpeas. And anytime you add beans to your diet, you are helping to regulate your blood sugar. They're very high in fiber, very high in protein. They fill you up and they add lots of nutrition to your diet. I'm using canned beans because it's a class and I'm trying to get things streamlined. But if you want to make your own beans, it's a lot less expensive. The way to prepare beans properly is to soak them in some kind of acidic water, like water with a little bit of vinegar or a little bit of lemon juice added to it. Soak them for 24 hours, rinse them really good, and then just slow cook them for 4 to 6 hours depending on the size of the bean. And what that does is it starts to pre-digest the bean. It gets rid of all those properties on it, the enzyme inhibitors that give you gas and make you not feel good after you eat beans. And it also increases the bioavailability of the beans. So if you can cook them yourself, that's going to be your best choice. But in our world of being crazy busy and not having time to do anything, canned beans are second best option. And then what we're going to do next is throw in some raisins. Now I love Indian food because they combine sweet with spicy, and the raisins just put enough sweetness in there so that you've got a good contrast of flavors. We've also got some cashew nuts in here, and that's also going to help improve the protein content. It's going to make it more filling, plus it adds nice texture to it. Red peppers. Did you know red peppers have oh gosh, I forget how much, way more vitamin C than oranges do. So if you want vitamin C content, then red peppers are the way to go. Cauliflower. And you want to put the red peppers and the cauliflower, I'm just kind of dumping everything in right now, but what you want to do is simmer it until it's all ready to go, and then put the cauliflower and the peppers and the peas in very last, right before you serve it. Because once you cook vegetables, antioxidants such as vitamin C, they're heat sensitive. So once you cook them, the longer and the higher temperature you cook them at, the more antioxidants and vitamins are destroyed in the process. So basically what you want to do is just barely cook it enough so it gets tender. You want the vegetable to become, so as you're cooking the vegetables, they'll go from being the color you put them in, and then they'll go really bright and vibrant, and then they'll start getting more dull. So what you want to do is stop cooking them right when they get really bright and vibrant, and that's the best time to eat the vegetables. That's when their nutrient content is the most available and you haven't destroyed a lot of the antioxidants in there. And then we've just got frozen peas. If you've got fresh peas, that's even better. Stir that baby up, and you've got dinner. Now, the other cool thing about Indian cooking is it's vegan, it's fast, and it's easy. In just several minutes, you can just throw this together, and it's a great family-style dish where you can just make a pot of rice and this, and it's delicious, and it's super easy. Now, when you're done, Let's just pretend like that's simmered and all the vegetables have gotten really bright. It usually takes 2 or 3 minutes to do that. When you're done, you put the cilantro on the top. You don't want to cook this at all. You just want to use it as a garnish on the top. And that improves the flavor and also the nutrient content of your food. And we also have pepper. Remember, adding pepper to your food helps you to absorb more nutrients from everything else. So we're going to put that on very last of all, right before we eat it. You don't want to cook the pepper. And most of my Indian food, you'll notice that it might taste a little bit bland. I like to cook my food without enough salt and then add a little bit of salt like right before I eat it. And what that does, Americans, okay, for our body to run properly, we only need between 200 and 1,500 milligrams of salt per day. Do you know what the average salt consumption of average Americans are? 4,500 milligrams. So that's craziness. That's a lot more salt than you need. That's contributing to heart disease, to blood pressure problems, to diabetes, to all sorts of crazy stuff. So one way to fix that problem is, first of all, most of the salt people are eating is highly refined salt, which is not good for you at all. So switching from highly refined salt to a natural salt, that's going to help a lot. And second of all, undersalting your food when you cook and then just salting it a little bit more at the table, that's going to help you to lower your threshold. Most people are just, their tongues are conditioned to need a lot of salt. And by putting your salt on the top, it tricks your tongue into thinking you're getting more salt than you actually are. And so as you're doing that, you're still getting the pleasure from the salty taste, but you're not getting as much salt, and it's lowering your threshold for how much salt you think you need. And pretty soon, if you go back to eating your regular amount of salt, it's going to be way too much for you. And I think that happens with a lot of things as you're switching to a healthy diet, is you're lowering your threshold for sugar and fat and salt, all the junk stuff that you've been putting into your body and just eating compulsively. You just need to give yourself a little time and retrain yourself to eat less of it, and then you'll find if you go back to the way you're eating before, it's not going to be very tasty anymore for you. Okay. Has anybody experienced that? Yeah. Getting some nods. Okay, any questions about the korma?